up of the presentations of two different groups, and so I'm with both of these groups. Raptors Are the Solution is just basically about, we already have pest control in nature. Nature does it for us for free, and that's what RATS is all about. The Hungry Owl Project actually started out doing a lot of hands-on with rescue of animals and providing nesting boxes for these beneficial predators, which are basically Mother Nature's free, non-toxic pest control. So these are all of our pest-eating friends that we all benefit from, but that we also all harm when we use any kind of pesticides or rodenticides. We're actually harming the very creatures that are helping us keep our pest populations in balance. Specifically barn owls, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has in the past stated that these are the most beneficial species in the United States because of the amount of rodents they eat. They really are insatiable rodent eaters, and that's why the Hungry Owl Project was called the Hungry Owl Project. There were people up here who were possibly interested in doing something like the Hungry Owl Project to kind of take advantage of natural pest control and educate people about the damage that rodenticides is doing. So that's really what the Hungry Owl Project and RATS is all about. So hopefully I can inspire you all to maybe start your own grassroots actions here. This is a really neat picture. Richmond is an area of the Bay Area that has a lot of old abandoned warehouses, and these are the remains of barn owl pellets. So we can tell from the owl pellets why barn owls are so beneficial to us, all the things that they eat. And another thing that the Hungry Owl Project does to engage the community and schools is we have owl cameras in some of our owl boxes, and we stream these on the internet. We have one very famous owl box at a school in West Marin, which is a very rural agricultural area of Marin County, and the pair of owls that nest there each year are called Salt and Pepper, and they have their own Facebook page. So they have a big following. So these are just some shots from some, and you can see they eat. This is the male is bringing a gopher home to the female, and that owl over there has a lizard, I think. And there's the female in a box with her eggs. So these boxes can be very successful if you have the right habitat for barn owls, which is basically open kind of agricultural meadows, fields, but they like open areas. And this is one of our barn owl boxes in a suburban neighborhood in Novato, California, which is in northern Marin County. So basically, that's really what, a lot of what the Hungry Owl Project does is just let people know that if they have vineyards or ranches or just any kind of property at all, where they're having trouble with gophers or moles or rats, that they can try putting up these nesting boxes and let the owls come in and help them with their rodent populations. So it's considered part of what's called IPM, which is Integrated Pest Management. So integrated pest management is a variety of non-toxic techniques that you can use to deal with rodents, but it's not a quick and easy fix like going out and buying poison or Roundup or something. It takes work, and it's like a toolbox. And owl boxes can be one part of the IPM toolbox, but there are always going to be rodents, because if there are no rodents, then the owls would have to go away, because there wouldn't be anything for them to eat. It's basically the math of how amazingly prolific barn owls can be at keeping rodent populations in balance. And this man who created this, Steve Simmons, he's like a legendary barn owl guy in the Central Valley. He's been doing it for many, many years, and he's collected a lot of data on how amazing barn owls are in our environment. And barn owl boxes are being used all over the world. I mean, there's a project between Israeli and Palestinian farmers even to have barn owl boxes, and these are like mortal enemies, but they're working together on the whole barn owl box thing for their crops. So barn owls, peacemakers, who knew? This is a really cool picture from one of our boxes. So these little weird looking dinosaur things are baby barn owls, and you can see all around them the cache of food. Basically, the parents are just hunting nonstop and bringing food and just piling up food in their box because they eat so much, and those are pretty much all gophers. So, and for example, one red-shouldered hawk can eat 30 rodents a month, because basically if they eat a rodent every day, they're going to eat one every day. So right there you have this hawk, that's one hawk taking 30 rodents out of the environment, but one poisoned rodent can take that hawk out of the, or take out its entire nest of offspring. So I should just explain how these poisons work in case you don't know. Most of them are anticoagulants, which anticoagulant means it stops your blood from coagulating or clotting. So once they eat this food, this bait, they eat the bait, they start to bleed internally, which causes dehydration. Then if they've eaten this food inside a building, they're going to leave the building and they're going to go out and seek water. And that exposes them to predators, and they're in a weakened state. So predators always, the job of a predator is to weed out the weak and the sick, right? That's what lions do in a herd of antelope. That's what hawks do. That's what all predators do. They keep the prey populations healthy by removing the weaker members. And then once the predator eats the poisoned rodent, then the predator itself has the poison in it and will bleed to death internally or die trying to cure their thirst. It's a very slow and cruel death, even for a rat. I mean, rats are living beings and they have a nervous system and they feel pain and suffering. So it's extremely inhumane. So WildCare, the organization in San Rafael, they received a large grant from the California Department of Pesticide Regulation to start doing some testing of animals that are being brought to them. And so this is 1 year. These are just animals that came to WildCare. So, you know, there are a lot more animals that were poisoned that were never found. And this is in Marin County, you know, which has this reputation like, oh, Marin County, it's very environmental, it's very this, it's very that, it's the Bay Area bubble. But you would be amazed that even in the Bay Area bubble, there are a lot of people who don't know about this stuff or don't care and put out poison. So that's just one example of how many animals, almost every animal they're testing, whether it be raptors or mammals, has some level of rodenticide in its body, and that's really scary. I told you, this is a real downer presentation I got here. So, these are barn owls in a nesting box. They're super cute. They could be wiped out by being fed one poisoned rat, whole family gone. So, there is treatment for poisoning by rat poison, by anticoagulant rat poison. There's different kinds of rat poison, but anticoagulant rat poison can be treated. If the animal is found in time, a wildlife center will treat it with vitamin K injections. Vitamin K is what makes our blood clot. But sometimes by the time they come in, it's basically too late. So basically what they do is when the animal dies is they remove a piece of its liver and they send it to a laboratory that's run by the California Fish and Wildlife Department, and they can analyze and figure out what poisons were in the body. So now I'm going to attempt to show you just part of a video that Rats made which features a wildlife center talking about this problem.
People have been trying to control rodent populations for centuries, literally. And the idea of just knocking an animal out of the food chain and out of the area it's just, with all we know nowadays in science and biology, that just is not going to work. And so it's incredibly frustrating that people still choose to put poisons out, believing the packaging that it's safe and it's going to be effective. We know for a fact that the wild animals that have come into our hospital have been poisoned We have had, for example, in 2012, of 106 samples that we sent to the lab, 75% of them came back positive for exposure to these anticoagulants.
They're still on the shelves, even though the EPA has ruled that they pose an unreasonable risk. Now, unreasonable risk are magic words for regulators. These are words that do not show up very often. And what it really means is they should not be sold.
The EPA even touts this as the biggest fight since DDT.
To have these rat poisons still on the market and to have some of the manufacturers not cooperating with the EPA, which has stated that certain safety measures need to be put in place, is putting their children at risk.
These baits that are used to kill mammals like us, in the past, they had to eat them several times. Over time, they would build up a toxic dose. Now, it just takes a bite.
We want to raise awareness.
So the reason why the part at the end was the mayor of Richmond. Richmond is a city near San Francisco that's a very low income people live there, and there are projects and the whole deal. And the city of Richmond is one of the cities that passed a resolution asking retailers not to sell rat poison. And Decon, the makers of Decon, the most prevalent one of these poisons, are so cynical and so not caring about the safety of people and wildlife. They actually sent a letter to the mayor of Richmond and said to her that, you know, she was going to deprive low-income people of a way of protecting themselves from rats. And it was really just unbelievable that they would write a letter like that. Like, they don't care that people's kids are finding pellets of rat poison behind the couch in their apartment and eating it. That's one of their big markets, is low-income people who have these rat problems and live in projects. This has to do with Cooper's hawks, who are being widely studied in Berkeley. And this was the impetus for the start of Raptors Are the Solution. My friend Lisa, who runs Raptors Are the Solution, lives in Berkeley. And in her neighborhood in 2007, 2 juvenile Cooper's hawks were found dead in a kiddie pool. Like, people had this little pool out for the kids. And like 2 days in a row, a juvenile Cooper's hawk was found drowned in their little pool. And it turned out that they both had poison in their system, and like I said, it causes dehydration. So these fledgling Cooper's hawks, which you can see here has a rat in its talons, they were killed because their parent probably fed them pieces of meat from a rat that had eaten poison. And this just really galvanized and enraged Lisa to start this project, Raptors Are the Solution. So here's another Cooper's hawk feeding her chicks, and you know, there's just no way to know in an urban environment like Berkeley where rat poison is just so pervasive if these chicks are even going to survive on what she's feeding them, because she has no way of knowing that there's poison in the food. And then in 2012, there was a family in the Bay Area who had this amazing experience of having a turkey vulture nest pretty much in their backyard. And I don't know if anybody knows much about turkey vultures, but they're very secretive with their nesting, and it's really a rare and special thing to get to observe a turkey vulture nest. And they were watching this bird every single day. It was in their backyard. And then one day it came stumbling into their backyard and collapsed. And it eventually died, and it was just full of rat poison. So even though turkey vultures feed on dead animals, even when the animals are dead, if they have rat poison in them, it can kill them. So many mammals are affected by rat poison, including foxes. And we do have our native wood rat, also known as the pack rat, and they are a favorite food of spotted owls. So sometimes they live in suburban neighborhoods and near people, and they can end up being poisoned. Is everybody clear on the whole concept of secondary poisoning? That basically the predator eats the prey, and the poison goes into the predator's body, and it doesn't leave the body. I'm going to talk a little bit about that pretty soon here. These are just some some articles that have been in the paper recently about, you probably all know, I know I'm preaching in the choir a lot here, but you probably all know about the illegal grows that are going on in our forests on public lands. So it's starting to get press attention, which is really important. And part of that is because of this animal, the Pacific fisher. The Pacific fisher is now being considered for listing on the endangered species list. It's a type of weasel, and it almost went extinct years ago when the Russian fur traders were here. They would kill these for their fur, and they would market it as a Russian sable or something like that. But then they came back. But now because of the groves in the forest, where these animals are rarely found, they're humans, but they are found in the forest, and they're being found with lots of rodenticides in their bodies. Whoops. And so this was another article in the San Francisco Chronicle about the grove sites that they're being found all over the Bay Area too, in the state parks. And I'm sure you've probably all read about what they find when they raid these grove sites. It's pretty horrific. The streams are diverted, they're cut off, they're taking all the water out of the streams to feed the plants, and then they basically have every poison known to humanity at these sites, in addition to traps and people with guns. So it's actually very dangerous for the humans who are brave enough to go in and try to stop this. Because no animal of any kind is tolerated near a grove site. Everything must be annihilated in order to protect the crop. And I was really disheartened recently to hear the president of Mexico on NPR say that he is not for legalization. Because I guess it won't really benefit his country, because if it's legalized and regulated, then these illegal cartels won't be able to operate with impunity and do things however they want. There's been some things in the news recently about bobcats, and this woman, Laurel Series, she has a website you can look up called Urban Carnivores, and she studies bobcats in Southern California. And a great number of bobcats in the Hollywood Hills and the Santa Monica Hills are testing positive for rodenticides. And what happens is they get mange, and mange is an ectoparasite. So basically what the rat poison does is, even if it doesn't kill the animal, it reduces their immune system, it weakens them so that these parasites can come in. And mange is a very painful for an animal. It can eventually kill them. So she is doing a lot of research. So you can just see how it moves up, and it's going all the way up to the top predators. I mean, in the avian world, the great horned owl is the top predator. And in the world of mammals, the top predator would be our mountain lion. And you might think, well, mountain lions don't go around eating rats, do they? Well, they could if they were really hungry, but they eat other animals that have been eating. So as each animal eats the animal beneath it, if you will, on the food chain, which is actually more of a web, it's accumulating in their tissues, so it's intensifying. And this is a beautiful mountain lion that was being studied in the Hollywood Hills, known as P22, who actually made it onto the cover of National Geographic, and so inspired the photographer. He worked, by the way, for months to get this shot of the cat with the Hollywood sign. He was so inspired by his experience there that he's fundraising to build a wildlife tunnel, because that's a big killer of mountain lions, is they have to disperse and cross freeways and they get hit by cars. Well, this is what happened to P22. They tracked P22 because periodically they need to change the collar batteries. And he or she, I don't know if it's a male or a female, had a load of anticoagulants in it and was suffering from mange. So while they had the cat under to change the batteries, they also gave it a shot of a treatment to help try to get rid of this mange. So you can see he looks just terrible. And just recently in Southern California, a mother bobcat died. She had a high level of rodenticide, and it was clear that she was a mother because they could tell she was nursing, and rescuers actually found her kittens, 2 of them, and they both later died from rodenticide poisoning. So that's really sad, but on the plus side, it has galvanized a group of people in that area who are under the name of CLAWS. They're starting their own Owlbox program and education program about rodenticides to try to teach their neighbors to stop doing this. So this is just a little history. The EPA has known for years, well before 2008, that these rodenticides are deadly to wildlife, pets, and also poisoning thousands of children a year. I mean, the children don't usually die, but so you don't hear about it in the news, but there are thousands of children every year who get into the containers because they're kind of brightly colored little pellets and blocks and things, and kids think it's candy sometimes. So they proposed canceling some of these, and SGARs, SGARS, means second generation anticoagulant rodenticide. There's second generation and there's first generation. And they proposed not allowing it to be sold in stores, but they exempted PCOs, which means pest control operators. So that's a real problem because pest control operators are a major provider of poisons at people's homes. And Reckitt Benckiser is a major multinational company that owns the product Decon, and they, of course, immediately sued. And what that did for them is that while there was a lawsuit, they got to keep selling their product. So the other makers took their product off the shelf, and then Decon got to keep selling theirs. So it's all very cynical and disheartening. So now we have legislation and laws that we're not going to sell the second generation anticoagulants to consumers. We're still going to let farm stores sell them, and we're still going to let, so that means all the growers can still buy them, and we're still going to let pest control operators sell them. And so what's going to happen is that this is good, but it's not good because now they're going to repackage their poisons and they're going to put them back on the shelf and they're going to say, oh, now safer for wildlife. Well, first generation poison is not any safer than the other poisons. And actually some of the first generation poisons are neurotoxins, they're not anticoagulants. And they really don't have a treatment for neurotoxins. So basically your pet or this wild animal will die from it. We can't depend on the government and corporations to do the right thing. And it's subject to a lot of compromising because you can't get laws passed without all this compromising. And so they're not going to do the right thing. If we wait for them, we're not going to have our wildlife anymore. So I believe that it's up to us as grassroots advocates and activists to educate others about this by word of mouth, and to be very careful what we as consumers buy, and also to know what we are partaking of and where it came from. So, you know, everybody is really into farmers markets, and you go to the farmers market and you can talk to the grower of your food, and you can ask them questions like, oh, how do you grow this food? And oh, I see you're certified organic. But do we ask those questions when we're buying other things? For example, I don't know, marijuana? Do we know where it came from? Do we know how it was grown? I think we need to ask that question, and if we partake of it, because if you're partaking of it and you don't know that, then you're, part of the problem. Maybe it'll get legalized in 2016. I understand that's the next big push for legalization, and then maybe at the farmers market there'll be people selling marijuana, and we'll get to say, oh, where did you grow this, and did you use chemicals, and how did you grow this? And we'll actually know. But in the meantime, I really just think it's up to us to share information with people and to ask stores and other organizations not to sell these products. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about Raptors Are the Solution, which is an amazing organization that is basically run by one woman. I'm on the steering committee, but this one person, Lisa Owens-Viani, she is the force behind this, and she has gotten many grants, not many, but she's gotten enough grants to produce materials like this. And all the materials that I'm going to show you from Raptors Are the Solution, you can go to their website and you can print them out and you can use them. They're for public use. So this is the kind of stuff that Raptors Are the Solution comes up with, and I think it's very effective. And has anybody seen the billboards up here? Yeah, good. So they have, we just use everything we could possibly use to get the word out about the benefit of Raptors versus the detriment of using poison. So we have public transit in San Francisco called BART, Bay Area Rapid Transit, and Lisa, and also Muni buses in the city. And Lisa raised funds to have these posters and these bus ads put up. So that's the kind of things that you can do if you can raise the money. And some of it was done through crowdsourcing, like Indiegogo and things like that on the internet. This was a big poster at the Montgomery Street BART station, which is the most very heavily used BART station in San Francisco. And then this is from right here in McKinleyville off Central Avenue. This was one of our billboards that a woman did some crowdfunding for to get this billboard put up here. So I think those are really effective methods of getting the word out. These are the kinds of things you can download from the website. If you know that you have any kind of raptors nesting in your neighborhood, you could download these pictures, these posters, and post them around your neighborhood or share them with your neighbors and just talk to people. And this is another type of graphic that, people are just making these things for Lisa. People really care about this stuff, and they come up with these ideas, and we share them, and they really do a lot of good. So, and then this is a group called Bi-State Wildlife Hotline. I don't even know them, but they came up with this poster. You call them rodents, we call them dinner. So anybody can work on this problem. So the Hungry Owl Project has posters, Raptors Are the Solution has posters. You can go to either website. You can use whatever you want to share information. Another effort that RATS has been involved in is getting cities to pass resolutions. Now the resolutions aren't laws. An ordinance is a law, a resolution is not a law, but these cities have passed resolutions in which they ask the retailers within their city not to sell rat poison. I have no idea how effective it is, but it gets people talking, it gets in the paper. So it is effective in the sense of education. Because, these corporations just keep buying each other, and you don't know who you're buying things from. So that makes it really hard.